It is a splendid day to just show up. Hi, everyone. Yvonne Heath here, nurse turned author, speaker, and changemaker, and your host. Welcome to Navigating Grief with Heart and Humor, where we talk about, plan, and prepare for grief, transitions, end of life, and the messiness in between long before it arrives, and diffuse the fear so we can live fully now. We normalize hard conversations throughout life, at home, at school, at work, and in our communities. We are proactive. We have a belief about life and death that creates comfort in all transitions. We have coping skills and strategies. We understand grief and we acknowledge and allow our grief and the grief of others. We know how to just show up and not try to fix it. Well, at least we aspire to do all of these things. Often we are here because we have been through the just crisis transitions, faced the death of loved ones, and we realize that we created a lot of our excessive suffering by being ill prepared, and we're going to do it differently from now on. And so I invite you to set an intention for our time together, to be really fully present, forget about everything else that's going on in your life, and just take this time for yourself. This is so incredibly important so that we can live life to the fullest, right to the end of life. And so, as always, I'm going to take a moment to ground myself, to center, to just land here and be fully present so that I can share whatever it is you need to hear. And of course, I am learning as we have these conversations every single time. So I invite you to create your own ritual of just calming the noise, being present. I love to take 2 deep breaths. And if I have more time, I take a few more and I really settle in. But for today, and when I just need to just move forward, I just take 2 slow, deep breaths, inhaling and exhaling. And then it really just helps me to be present. So I invite you to join me. Works every time. So as I started a few episodes ago, and I love this because I want to bring heart and humor wherever I go. It's already serious enough. And so I've been sharing a fun fact about my life. And of course, it's fun for me to reminisce as well. So I shared things like, my husband's much younger than me and all kinds of fun things. And today I was just thinking about when we actually moved into Jordy's home with him. He was this bachelor in his bachelor pad. He was so excited that he was just gonna, it was gonna be just this fun place. And before he knew it, I moved in with my son Tyler, who he adopted in a few years from then, and our dog and a big husky shepherd mix, and our cat, who was pregnant and had 4 kittens the day after we moved in. And his bachelor pad went from fun single guy to full on craziness. Oh, and he had his pet bird, Billy, which my cats sort of like to watch. But anyways, and so I just love how hilarious, we have this vision for what our life is going to be. And I sometimes feel like life just laughs a little and says, hey, let's just throw them a few curveballs. But we look back at that time and it was just some of the best memories we created. So there's my fun fact for today. And it's always fun to just, travel down memory lane and be nostalgic. And again, as we're having hard conversations, we can always create room for a little lightness within the hard times or dark times. It's okay to give ourselves breaks, smile, laugh, and just take a moment. So all right, I'll begin for today. And I believe that the last few episodes I've been sharing our journey with Joe, supporting this man through his end of life journey, from going to the hospital with back pain to being with him at his very final moments and his last breath. And as I was sharing all of the things that we were doing for Joe and what we were learning, it really did hit me. It hit me this morning, actually, just thinking of all the things that we did to just show up for Joe in the period of, it was less than a month, but there was so much to do. So much, the emptying his apartment, sorting it, bringing things to different places, selling items, paperwork, and cleaning the apartment, selling his car, and going to see him in the hospital. And I realized that I had the time to do this because this is my life's work. And it was emotional at times for me, but this was not a relative or a very close friend. I cared about Joe, but this was not a relative. And we were not trying to figure out who gets what as far as, family heirlooms. And we did not have many people saying, well, I want this and I want that. And Joe lived a fairly simple life. He had a small apartment. He didn't have multiple properties. And I just had to think, I shuddered thinking of, wow, what if in this time where we spent, Jordy and I, my husband Jordy and I spent hours and hours and hours doing these things for Joe, with Joe, connecting with his brother, and all the things that we were able to do and how we were able to just show up and really make a difference. What if this was our relative and I had a full-time job and I lived out of town, and there were many other siblings or relatives that would have had an opinion about what should happen, what shouldn't happen, where things should go? What if Joe had different properties, a cottage, or other things, 2 cars, a big house full of furniture? He had a small, quaint, cute, just 5 rooms, 5 little rooms in this little apartment. And I just cannot imagine what it would have been like to be a family member, sorting through all this and having people with different opinions, and at the same time being devastated about Joe's sudden demise, sudden, from back pain to full of cancer to possibly going to a nursing home to dying. And if we were family members who were really close, trying to do all of this other stuff while we were grieving, maybe in crisis, trying to figure out what treatments that Joe could have, if we did not have the knowledge. Because I think of how this is my life, creating coping skills and strategies, and what I believe about life and death, and being able to just show up, knowing that I can't fix grief, and to be present at the end of life is an honor. What if these were relatives, if we were relatives and we didn't have any of those skills, if we had never had open conversations about death and dying? What if we were not able to have the honest conversations about medical futility, meaning that treatment can always be offered? Treatment will often always be offered with certain doctors that will treat to death. Joe was fortunate enough to have a beautiful doctor who knows how to have these conversations, and she's actually in my book. And so we had those conversations, and Joe had those conversations of, Joe, these are some of the things we can do, but they will not increase the quality of your life. They might extend it a little, but they'll make it harder, more challenging, more pain. And Joe didn't want that. And I reminded him, Joe, this is all up to you, that this is your decision. What is good quality of life for you? I was able to have those conversations with Joe. And I just, again, imagined being a family who was ill prepared, maybe in a family estranged, hadn't seen Joe in many, many years. Suddenly you're thrown into this, having to make these decisions, these life and death decisions, literally life and death decisions. Wow. Talk about excessive suffering. Talk about fracturing families beyond repair if everyone isn't on the same page, if people haven't had open, honest conversations, if we haven't said, okay, the most important thing is to honor our loved one and what they wish at this time, and to support each other through this process. I just know every single person that I've even mentioned a bit of this story, they have a horror story to share. They have a horror story to share of someone who was married, and then their ex-wife or ex-husband came into the picture and demanded the house and half of the belonging. All kinds of things. Or another woman who said, oh, when my grandfather died, and he was remarried, and he had some things of my grandmother's that were really important to our family, and suddenly his new wife's her children were taking all of our grandmother's things. Oh my goodness. All of the excessive suffering we create by avoiding, by not talking about planning and preparing for grief, transitions, end of life, before it arrives. Having these conversations throughout life. If there are things you can imagine right now in your life that will be challenging, if you can anticipate them, I implore you to lean into these conversations. If you think, oh, people say, I don't want to talk about this. Yeah, I know. I get it. Don't wait until you want to talk about it. Don't wait until everyone is ready to talk about it, until it's the perfect time. When is that perfect time? Now, before you are facing it. Now, before emotions run high and regret comes in, and the elephant in the room, it's right over there. I'm going to tell you that grief and greed can change people in ways you never thought possible. That is a sad truth. And if we have not had these hard conversations before, we can pile on a lot of damage on top of the grief. So that grief is just buried deep down, deep down. We just push it right down. The problem is that when we just bury it and we don't express, acknowledge, and allow our grief and our emotions, it doesn't go away. It shows up in different ways. Emotional, mental, physical health issues, tremendous anger, So much of this can be avoided. Not all of it, right? Not all of it. There's no perfect scenario. However, if we can tell ourselves, I did everything that I could in the past, forgive yourself for whatever you did or didn't do, and do it differently moving forward. And there will always be more you could have done, or you can always say, oh, I wish I would have done this. Yes, I know. And now what? Do the best you can and don't wait for the perfect moment to start having these conversations before you have to. Before you have to. Talk about, plan, prepare. Find out what resources will be available to you so that you're not blindsided when you think, oh, there's all these wonderful resources and the healthcare system will take care of us. Things have changed because the healthcare system is failing under the pressure of an ill-prepared society. I'm sorry. We, each and every community member, needs to be a part of the solution. We need to be a part of the journeys in life, grief, and everything in between. Empower yourself now. Make a difference in your life now. Oh, again, when people say, I don't want to talk about this, I promise you, when these situations arrive, the challenge is exponentially more. It is compounded. It is compounded, especially when everyone has a different idea of what should be happening. And it's a time we want to be supporting each other. Through this challenging time, you want to be supporting your loved one, not trying to crack codes and get into computers and, oh my gosh, does anybody know the password? I have no idea. Well, I want that ring. Well, that's mine. And have those conversations now. I am so beyond grateful to Joe for this journey and just this true aha moment of just realizing or just validating how important and critical this all is. We can do this differently. We can do this differently. And it starts with you and it starts with me. And it can start today. Just lean into it. And you do not have to do this alone. I will just show up for you along the way. And again, on my website, loveyourlifetodeath.com, I have resources. I have my program, Get Ready for Grief. I feel like everyone would benefit from having that program, because when grief arrives in your life, again, because it will, that's life. It's a part of this journey throughout life. Grief and joy, it's never all one or the other. It's a roller coaster. You can have resources. And there are many other resources. Read, learn, listen to podcasts, whatever you connect with. Make a difference in your own life and look ahead at the transitions that are coming up, at the changes. And again, we don't all die, and we don't always expect. We don't all die of disease, and we don't always get a warning. We don't all die of old age. Those are just the matter of facts of life. We don't have to like it, but if we can accept it and live the heck out of our lives now, not in fear, but in being as empowered, resilient, and happy as possible. Isn't that the best way? Best way to do it. So thank you for joining me for these challenging conversations. And remember, we can have fun along the way also, right? It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom, even when you're having these conversations with others. How do you start it? Hey, awkward conversation coming up. Wear a goofy hat. Just say, well, I'm just trying to make this a little less awkward. I don't know, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. Just start. Because if you want to be empowered and resilient and make a difference and avoid excessive suffering, you know what my call to action is, as always. Plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party. Thank you so much. Let's stay connected. Thank you again, Joe, for all that you have taught me. And now I am sharing this, and we'll just keep on showing up for one another, learning as we move through this journey we call life. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.